Button for me. Say where you watching from in the chat. We are gonna get right into the live stream. I'm not even gonna hold you guys up tonight. There's a lot more like a news-a-thon because what time we jumped on here. Guys, that's my fault. I'll be back on tomorrow. I'm gonna bring you guys probably 2 live streams tomorrow. So let me just go through the list of what I'm gonna play for you guys tonight. First up, we got Candace Owens. She's gonna give us an insane update on Brigitte, Blake Lively, and the Globalized. But I'm really just looking at the Brigitte Macron lawsuit that Candace is going through now. As you guys know, like she's being sued by Emmanuel and Brigitte. So they are, I believe it's a defamation of character lawsuit. So I want Candace to explain to us, like, how's it been going so far ever since she first made the announcement that they would be suing her, which literally I think is a ridiculous. But I told you guys to go to Candace's channel and watch her series. I think it's Becoming Bridget or Becoming Brigitte. Literally, you guys got to watch it because, like I said, the amount of evidence that Candace has is overwhelming. And then we're going to switch games. James Talarico, Democrat from out of Texas, has been catching a lot of attention lately. I managed to find one of his sermons, so I wanted us to take a look at that. This one's only 18 minutes, so we're going to actually take a look at, I'm probably going to play the entire thing. It says, James Talarico delivers sermon against Christian nationalism. So I was like, this is going to be really good. And then we'll watch about 20 minutes of, shout out to Stephen A. Smith having a conversation with Charlemagne the God. So Charlemagne the God attacked by President Trump. He responds, and so do I, meaning Stephen A. Smith. All right, guys, without further ado, let's jump in.
Got Germany in the chat already. Yep, we're going to need you guys too. This is now going to be a global investigation. Okay, something completely bananas for you guys. I couldn't believe it. And yes, it's very real. So come on, down the rabbit hole we go. Okay, so one of the strangest aspects of the entire Brigitte Macron legacy is that they have consistently, and I'm referring to the first couple, they have consistently attempted to present as evidence of Brigitte's existence her birth announcement, okay? Brigitte Trogneu's birth announcement, which ran in the local newspaper of Amiens being the town her and Macron were born in, and they're like, this is proof that she's alive. I'm gonna show you this birth announcement here. It reads Anne-Marie, Jean-Claude, and Mary Von, Monique, and Jean-Michel Trogneux. And this is in French, but it's, you know, they're very happy to announce the birth of their sister Brigitte, okay? And that.
Okay, I mean, why does this even matter? Is that like a thing in France? So like when you're having a kid or like when you're gonna have a sibling being born, like they make an announcement in the paper? I'm just asking if that's a normal thing in France, then it's a normal thing. That's not normal in America. So I'm like, how is this even proof that she was born a woman?
That ran in the Amiens newspaper, I believe, 1953. But just like on the surface, it is a weird thing to continually present as evidence that you existed. Just think about that, right? Like if you are challenging me to prove that I existed, the very last thing that I'm going to produce is a newspaper article, because who cares?
Yeah, like,
I'm gonna be like, here is a birth certificate, here are photos of me, here's me with my family. They just love this newspaper clipping so much. It appears everywhere, okay? And when I say that it appears everywhere and that they have insisted on this birth announcement as an element of truth or veracity, they even included this as a fact in their filings against me, okay? Take a look. This is the lawsuit page in the filing against me, point number 23. It reads, on April 13th, 1953 in Amiens, France, Mrs. Macron was born Brigitte Trogneux, a woman. She was the youngest of 6 children in a prominent chocolate-making family in Amiens. That'll be relevant later. An image of her birth announcement and family photo featuring Mrs. Macron as a child is below. Okay, so they include this again. Look at this.
I mean, dude, they're so weird. Like, what are they doing? And even here, like, why is it a picture of like a kid? Why isn't she a baby? I don't know. I don't care.
Announcements in Le Courrier Picard, that's the local newspaper, and they circle the person who they allege is Brigitte on the lap. No mention of our boy Jean-Michel Trogneux on the left there. And by the way, that photo on the right, the one that they just loved to give to the press, we know for a fact that that photo has been retouched, because in other presentations of this photo, there is no lamp in the background. There's a lamp sometimes, there's not a lamp sometimes, so there's no question that this photo has at some point gone through a retouching. But we're not talking about this photo, so let's just stick with this strange newspaper clipping that is so evidentiary.
Yeah, Candace would notice that.
The real trouble with Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte launching this lawsuit is that they have accidentally launched alongside it an army of international sleuths, okay? We now represent an army of people worldwide who are looking into the story because it's so crazy for a sitting president to do this. And people are emailing us, they've got tidbits that require further inquiry, they want to help along with the story, especially people in France, obviously, because they feel so oppressed by the state of affairs. They feel oppressed by their press, right? And an army of internet sleuths very much understands that this lawsuit really is a war on us, right? Like the press is launching a war on us. They're saying, how dare you ask questions? How dare you when we give or deliver an official narrative, how dare you challenge it? How dare you challenge our credentials and our authority? There's a lot riding on this because we know that the press has been for a very long time at war with the truth. And this is a most stunning example of that, right? They, the press, created this entire scandal by effectively lying on behalf of Brigitte and Emmanuel, right? Every element of the legacy they created was BS. She was hot, she was wearing short skirts, she was an irresistible teacher. No, she wasn't. She was wearing pantsuits. How could you say that? How did you not, as the press, do your due diligence and take a look at this picture and other pictures available of her during her time of teaching and go, yeah, maybe no, not Claudia Schiffer in short skirts. And then, of course, we then learn later on in the series that best image, you pull it up, best image belongs to Mimi Marchand, who then gets charged with forging documents. Everything's pretty weird. Anyways, since the press partook in this lie, they're in a rather precarious situation right now, right? This lawsuit exposes them. If we're able to prove that Brigitte Macron was indeed born a male, then why would there ever be any reason for us to accept anything the mainstream media tells us ever again? Like, there's no reason for us to ever listen to them now. There'd be no reason for us to ever listen to anything they actually told us in the past, because now we realize that they're telling big lies, huge lies. That is the true significance of this lawsuit, and I want to underscore that. This brings us to the next point, because this is insane. One of these internet sleuths, right, a Twitter user who goes by the handle Sagan Army, which, by the way, is a nod to this guy, Zoe Sagan, Zoe Sagan, sorry if I'm not saying that your last name right, but this was one of the earliest accounts that I was following and that was investigating. Zoe Sagan's account, Brigitte, the background was saying something does not make sense here, and then what happened was his entire account got banned on X because of French laws. They can just disappear you if they want to.
That's cool.
And so this person is using that name, Sagan Army. More people were like, nope, we're behind Zoe Sagan. And they tweeted this thread. And I'm obviously interpreting this for you guys, translating this rather into English because this thread was in French. It reads, coincidences are hard to kill. Brigitte Trogneau arrives at La Providence, that's the school Emmanuel went to, in Amiens in 1991, and then leaves for Paris in 2007. Okay, that's an established fact. A certain Elaine Trogneau is appointed the head of the Somme Departmental Archives in Amiens from 1992 to 2008. So almost virtually the exact same time you get this person, Elaine Trogneau, who's being appointed to the Departmental Archives in Amiens. Let's continue. The thread continues, it is this same Elaine Trogneau who will digitize documents from the courier Picard on behalf of the Departmental Archives. It is strange, however, that the page on the archive's website that referenced his appointment is no longer available. So this person is saying, oh, by the way, someone named Elaine Trogneau was in charge of the archives, the digital archives in Amiens during this time, and rather mysteriously, you used to be able to find this on the websites, the archive websites, but they've gotten rid of that. But then this user continues, fortunately, the internet forgets nothing, and this web capture is indeed authentic. So if you click this link, it goes on Wayback Machine. If you guys are not familiar with Wayback Machine, essentially, it archives the internet, right? So you can just take a photo of something a different year or ask it to archive a certain hyperlink, and it will capture it. So fortunately, somebody on Wayback Machine had captured this entry on the Amiens archive website, and here is what it reads. I'm showing you this here. It reads, the Picard Courier newspaper is telling you that from the time frame, they're archiving stuff from the Picard Courier newspaper from 1945 to 1960, and that it tells us that content, the documents that they have, documents from the Courier Picard borrowed by Elaine Trogneau, who's a teacher, from the premises of the journal and lent to the departmental archives of the Somme to be digitized and put online. The originals are not kept in the departmental archives of the Somme. So what they're saying here is what we had digitized was given to us by Elaine Trogneau. We don't have any originals. We digitized it. This teacher gave it to us. Oh, wow, okay. And the period of time, of course, includes this birth announcement. Like Elaine Trogneau was the person that was in charge of this, and he was the one that provided this document. Now, this Twitter user goes on and says, it will be noted that this document, included in the complaint by the Macrons against Candace Owens, which is a digitized press clipping from the Courier Picard dated April 15th, 1953, was likely digitized by the mysterious Elaine Trogneau, as he handled the years 1945 to 1960. Now I'm going to explain to you the next tweet that's about to come up. So there is this app and this website that is in France that is called Babelio, where users can effectively just upload book titles and review them. It's almost like, think of it as a social network for book reviews, like Yelp for book reviews almost, okay? And on this website, Elaine Trogneau has a profile. So the Twitter user continues. And what can be said about the intriguing comment posted in 2017 on Elaine Trogneau's Babelio page, years before the Brigitte Macron-Madame affair, even before Macron's election? And then they show you a screenshot, you can see here, of Elaine Trogneau's Babelio profile, and it reads, C'est ça la géopolitique. And that means this is geopolitics. Could be nothing, but that's what it says, this is geopolitics. And so the Twitter sleuth then asks the question, what connection is there between an unknown provincial archivist teacher and geopolitics? This is just supposed to be a teacher that is interested in history and and yet he's mentioning geopolitics on his Babel profile. Okay, let's continue. The user continues by asking, who then is this Mr. Elaine Trogneau, who was rummaging through the same archives as Natasha Ray's friend, accompanied by a mysterious stranger with an earpiece? So then they include this video, which I'm about to play for you. Now, to be clear, this woman, Corinne, is speaking in French. So we had to use AI technology to make her speak in English. So there might be some slight words that are wrong here. We wanted to make sure that you guys could hear it. And to set this up for you, Natasha Ray, in case you forgot, is the woman who has been dragged through the mud by the Macrons. They sued her and Amandine Roy for defamation. They have now lost that lawsuit in the appellate courts. Well, back when Natasha Ray was researching and everything pertaining to Brigitte Macron, she had people that she was working with, people that she hired, or maybe they were volunteering their time, who were willing to travel to Amiens, to go to the archival center, and to pull documents. And one of these individuals was this woman named Corinne. He sends this woman down to the archive center in Amiens to find these documents, to prove Brigitte's existence or not prove Brigitte's existence. And the lady is shocked when, while she's there waiting for her documents, because they have to call you up to the counter, she hears the name Trogneau being called. So someone else with the last name Trogneau was waiting for documents pertaining to the same period of time that she was looking for documents. And she recognizes the person to be Elaine Trogneau. Here's what Corinne says in her own words. Take a listen.
And when finally the first archives arrive, it's first come, first served. The person in charge of the archives at the reception says, "Here you go, your order has arrived." So the person gets up and says, "This is for Mr. Tronio's order, right?" At that point, you can imagine my ears perked up. I thought to myself, well, that's odd. It's still pretty unfortunate. What a coincidence that a Mr. Tronio would be doing research at the same time as me. So what I do is almost automatically I take a photo of the person in front of me. I send a message to Natasha saying, "Listen, I don't understand. There's a Mr. Tronio sitting across from me, also looking through archives, and it seems to be the Courrier Picard. And so here's the photo I took. So, this one. Of course, to fully respect their privacy, I have carefully blurred out, as is always done in such situations, the entire facial area of the individual because I deeply respect their personal privacy and confidentiality. When I get the photo, I recognize him immediately and I tell her, that's Alain Tronio, the historian who had all the Somme archives and the Courrier Picard digitized. But what really troubled me, beyond the conversation stopping when I arrived and the way he spoke so discreetly, was that I was very surprised to see this man, Tronio, from the first table, get up and head toward the door. But just a few seconds later, this is actually another day, but just a few seconds later, the man sitting across from me at the table also gets up and heads in the same direction for the same amount of time as Mr. Tronio, and then one after the other, they both come back in turn and resume their seats. This really troubles me. So I don't know if did they talk to each other? I don't know. I didn't see them talk to each other, but it was unsettling because it really seemed synchronized, getting up at the same time, going in the same direction, coming back after the same amount of time. It was really unsettling.
So what is happening there? She's not sure who this individual is that's sitting with an earpiece and has nothing, and that goes on longer, and she describes how he had no documents with him, and that's very unusual. You would never see someone, she said, at an archival center that's just sitting there with an earpiece. That sounds to me, and of course we can't confirm this, but that's probably security. That's what security does. I've had security before. They'll have an earpiece and they'll pretend they don't know you, and they're making, looking over you. But why on earth would this guy, Alain Tronio, who's a teacher and a historian, have security on him, if it is security? But also, what was he doing at the archive center, getting his hands on documents that he gave the archive center? You gave the archive center these documents. Yeah. They've since wiped it from their website for some unknown reason, but you should have the originals at home. What are you doing here? Yeah, are you trying to intimidate her? Or you realize people are fishing around? Are you trying to remember what you gave them? We don't know the answers, but that is incredibly strange. And making matters even more strange. And
it's a little
I'm going to be clear here that I have not yet had an opportunity to vet this information, but it is definitely interesting, is that someone else contacted us on the tips line, because tips at CandaceOwens.com if you have anything, and they said, Candace, the entire Tronio family origin story makes no sense entirely.
It doesn't.
Before we get into that, by the way, I do want to say that if you have any information pertaining to this Alain Tronio, we'd love to hear it. We've researched him. He exists. He has a Wikipedia page, actually. Scott, do you want to throw it up? Alain Tronio is a French teacher and local historian. He is a history professor in Amiens and the author of several books about the local history of Picardy. So the question becomes, again, which this user is pointing out, why would this person who is local to Amiens, concerned themselves with only Amiens history, be referring to geopolitics at all? There could be an answer for that. Alain Tronio, if you're watching, we'd certainly love to ask you questions. We'd love to ask you, actually, we could sit you down throughout this lawsuit. How are you, if you are related to Brigitte? If you're a Tronio from Amiens, I'm gonna go ahead and I think it's a safe assumption that you might be related to the Tronio family, whose documents you are digitizing at the archive center, the originals of which you should have then, right? That would make sense that you have these originals since you are a quote-unquote historian. You really gotta wonder about these historians, right? I mean, it's like, are we documenting history or are we rewriting history? I find myself asking that question. The more I learn, the less I realize we know. Regarding everything, truly regarding geopolitics, like just as I am re-examining what happened during World War II, and the press is screaming, like, you cannot look into World War II at all, I'm going, really, history is told by the victor, and then they get their historians to right. It's when the Bible tells us that Satan is the author of lies, hard emphasis on the author, right? Like, I feel now it might be a hard emphasis on the author. Who are these authors that are just lying all the time? The press and the state of everything they write just seems to be one big lie. So yes, I am going to say to the public, who is this Elaine Trogneau? I can't find who his father is, who his mother is. I can't find a thread, and granted, we just started looking into this, between him and Brigitte. I don't say in denial that you're related to Brigitte. It would be strange if you weren't related to Brigitte, because as we know, the Trogneaus are gang up in Amiens, right? That brings me to this next tip that I'm about to tell you about. So this person writes us, and they're like, the entire background story of the Trogneau family is weird. And they've done a lot of research. They sent me a lot. They've sent me photos, but I have to take time to vet this. But I'm putting this out there in case you may know something and want to say something. But their story, Brigitte's story, is I come from this family of chocolatiers. Like, we made macaroons. Nobody does chocolate like my family. And even on their website, the Trogneau family website, they tell the story that they have been doing this, I believe since 1897. And here's the long lineage, and we've kept this lineage of chocolatiers. So this person writes me, and they're like, Candace, I don't know if you know this, and here are the photos, but Amiens was absolutely destroyed by the German forces during the Battle of France in 1940. The German forces actually captured Amiens, and he's sending me photos like everything was destroyed. So how is it that their family kept up this chocolate business all the way through the occupation of German forces? Like, did they just like destroy kind of almost everything, and they're like, but the chocolate's good. Chocolate's great. We're gonna keep that for a little bit. And it is true. I looked into just basic history of Amiens, and it is true that it was captured by German forces. It wasn't liberated until 1944. And yes, apparently the majority of the city center was destroyed due to aerial bombardment. And so they are saying that they have been pulling files pertaining to the chocolate story. They're going, even the chocolate story, there's something wrong here. And my gut tells me this person might be onto something, because they sent me, like I said, a very compelling document that I'm going to begin the process of vetting. But as we do that, as we begin to vet, I gotta put it out to you guys, okay? What do you know? We need everybody involved now. This is a global investigation, okay? Jean-Michel Trogneau's military file is missing. We know that he was in Algeria, and for whatever reason, they don't want to release that military file. What goes on in Algeria, what goes on in Morocco might be a place to look. You guys can go down to local centers. Maybe there's something that pops up regarding a Jean-Michel Trogneau. Maybe there was a teacher, maybe old photos, who knows, old students. I think we definitely need to have a look at that stuff. If you're a French person, you have a friend from Amiens. It seems like everyone in Amiens is kind of related. Maybe they have a tip. I live in Amiens, and I'm kind of terrified of my own family. And I gotta get this information out to you. Please, you guys, send us tips at CandaceOwens.com, because I am seized by this now. I wake up every day and I learn something else that is crazy. Including now that, of course, the person who digitized the birth announcement happens to have a last name Trogneau and could be traveling with security, potentially. We don't know that for sure. Elaine Trogneau, if you are watching, I can't find anything about you other than the fact that you're a historian. You document everything that's ever happened in Amiens. We would have you on the show. Maybe you can clarify things for us regarding Brigitte Trogneau, who you might be related to, and what's going on with this chocolate factory. Like, what happens when it is being occupied, Amiens, by German forces? Were you just still selling chocolates? Maybe you've got some alternative photos, because this person is saying there was actually a different shop that was there. I don't know if that's true, but I'm paying attention, so we'll see. All right, guys, I want to throw to one of our sponsors right now. Oh, wait, first I have to show you this. Okay, genuinely, I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm not trying to be mean, because there's a lot of elements of this case that are compelling, and of course, there's a lot of physical evidence. I did someone's show earlier. I did The Spectator with Freddie Gray, and you could look at this, you could examine this story from a lot of different ways. We all know that. And the physical evidence is compelling, obviously. Siblings could look alike, but the absence of speaking about your sibling, representing him, makes it pretty shady. But there's this video, and people have been speaking about this, and I never saw it so clearly than in this video that was recently captured of Brigitte's. The size of Brigitte's hands, and again, I'm not trying to be mean, guys.
Oh boy.
We're just taking a look at everything. The sheer size of Brigitte's hands, the one thing that you can't operate on, right? You can't just be like, I'm going to go in and get new feet or new hands. I mean, you could be. That would probably render your hands and your feet totally dysfunctional. But in terms of cosmetics, yeah, no, you can't do that. Look at this video on Instagram. Wait until Brigitte is standing. You'll see that right hand, the one that doesn't have the bag. It's crazy. It is going to get crazy. Hold on one second. Right there. Look at the size of that hand. That is a very large hand. I'm gonna put that right there. That is a very large hand for a madame. Okay, throwing into some of our sponsors. Preborn, I told you guys about, but in terms of cosmetics, yeah, no, you can't do that. Look at this video on Instagram. Wait until Brigitte is standing. You'll see that right hand, the one that doesn't have the bag. It's crazy. It is gonna get crazy. Hold on one second. Right there. Look at the size of that hand. That is a very large hand.
I mean, it's pretty long.
I'm gonna put that right there. That is a very large hand for a madame. Okay, throwing in some of our sponsors. Preborn, I told you guys about them before. I'll say it again. You guys already know that I'm pro-life. That means I stand with mothers before their baby is born and long after. And that's exactly why I partner with Preborn. Preborn isn't out to judge women. They're making motherhood possible. They provide free ultrasounds. They share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And most importantly, they stay after the baby is born with real practical support by giving expecting mothers diapers, baby clothes, and even housing and financial help for up to 2 years after the baby is born. That's what true Christ-centered compassion looks like. And here's how you can be a part of it for just $28. You can give a mom a free ultrasound and a chance to see her baby. And when she does, she's twice as likely to choose life. Preborn is on a mission to save 70,000 babies this year, so don't just say that you're pro-life, you can actually live that. Donate now by calling 855-601-2229, or you can head to preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. Also want to talk to you about the Wellness Company because there have been a lot of people who are struggling to conceive. Maybe you're somebody that took the COVID vaccine and you have cause for concern. And you're not alone, by the way. A recent study that was led by a Danish researcher named Dr. Manici analyzed birth data from women between the ages of 18 to 39 over a 2-year period starting in 2021. The findings suggest a significant decrease in birth rates among vaccinated women, with data indicating a reduction in egg count by nearly 60%. Since 2021, many regions around the world have seen a significant decline in fertility rates, together with an increase in miscarriage rates. The Wellness Company created the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, crafted with 100% natural ingredients, which is specifically designed to help your body clear harmful spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support your overall health. So don't wait. Experience the only formula that is approved by Dr. McCullough, who is a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all. Head to twc.health/Candace and use code Candace, and you'll get 15% off plus free shipping. The Spike Detox. You can do that again by heading to twc.health/Candace and be sure to use code Candace at checkout. Okay. Now I want to get to this story. Speaking of like a war on the press, I don't know if you are where I'm at right now and realizing that our reality really might be one big matrix. Now that we realize they like to kind of laugh at us by creating art or like, putting a book in the corner on the desk like Macron. It's like, ha, it's Andre Gide, ha, what are you gonna do about it? I'm like, maybe that 90s movie, The Matrix, was telling us the truth and our reality is being created for us. And these stories, the more we get into them, whether it's Epstein and this hand of Midas pulling him through, pretending that he's like some genius. Whether we look at Elizabeth Holmes and you're like, oh, we thought like this girl who was maybe a genius and actually is kind of a fraud, and she's smiling and she comes from a family of billionaires. Every time you look up a story of somebody who allegedly just made something in their basement, like we discussed yesterday, I was just toying around in my basement fixing a motorcycle and I created Apple. What do you know? I don't know what goes on in these basements, but then you look into their families and they're old wealth families. They're old wealth families. And then we learn about operations like Operation Mockingbird, New York Times working with them to delude our minds, delude the minds of the masses, tell us to look away from the JFK story. They're paying them. Like the CIA was paying, had on their payroll, the New York Times. That's crazy stuff. Well, there's this journalist, Bari Weiss, might be Barry Weiss, I'm not sure. And we're supposed to believe this woman's a genius, okay? She was employed at the New York Times after conveniently spending a year in Israel, Hebrew University, which also happens to be where the Adelsons pour a lot of their money, because Miriam Adelson also attended Hebrew University. Anyways, Barry Weiss goes over there, does a year there, comes back, Columbia University, gets her journalist degree, gets a job at the New York Times. Okay, great. And then she does this big thing where she goes, I'm leaving the New York Times to launch my own thing, which is the Free Press. And it's obviously just a Zionist outlet. And if you're looking around, people are not being drawn to sign up to support Israel. Like the genocide thing kind of happened and people went, you know what, maybe no. So there's been a complete collapse in support for Israel. And Barry Weiss and the Free Press, it's an abysmal performance for the amount of money that was given to her quote unquote Free Press, the big money that was behind it. David Sachs, Mark Andreessen, for some reason they were like, Barry's got the special sauce, but they don't want you to believe your own eyes, right? If you go to YouTube, I'm gonna just show you the last videos that they posted, and there's the reason why I'm showing you this. Okay, she's had this up, 29,000 views for 24 hours, 19,000 views in an interview 2 days ago, 6,000 views on an interview that's been up for 8 days, but we're supposed to, every billionaire is lining up to throw money at her. Well, guess what? Now they're saying that Barry Weiss's Free Press is worth $250 million. That's the valuation, right? $250 million for an organization which shouldn't even be able to employ people if we live in a meritocracy, right? You should be like, she doesn't know where she's making any money. And the idea here is they want you to believe that, okay, maybe nobody's watching them at all on YouTube, but people are reading her, right? It's always the data that we can't see. Apparently, yes, there's been a collapse in support for Israel. Apparently, yes, literally every person who has a platform that is pro-Zionist has lost support and lost views. But Barry's musings, her writings, her monthly updates or whatever it is she's sending to people, they're paying for it, and to the tune of the company is worth $250 million. Huh? The most views I've ever seen the Free Press get, okay, is this week when they announced the valuation, because everybody's reporting going, what's going on? Like, this is so fake. Hand of Midas stuff happening right here, okay? She should, if we actually lived in a meritocracy, she should just be failing. If this was actually the free market, nobody's buying right now, her business should be going under. But instead, she's selling it for $250 million. And people are looking. Apparently they're saying Larry Ellison is interested in buying. That's what the press is alleging. Okay, Larry Ellison of Oracle. They're laughing at us. Anyways, I want to show you this really funny clip of Tim Dillon making fun of this absurdity. Take a listen.
I mean, unless we're all completely wrong here, and that Jeffrey Epstein was not at all connected to the Mossad. But it seems he was. It seems he was. So again, it would call into question this relationship that we've had with our, quote, greatest ally for a very long time. That can't happen. I don't care how many, Barry Weiss, whose company is, sold now, is going to sell to CBS for $3 trillion or something. Larry Ellison's son's buying the Free Press. The very important Free Press blog that is on Substack is worth $250 million. And I like Barry, but the the one that gets like 7,500 views on YouTube? That powerhouse conglomerate media company is worth $250 million. By the way, so the Tim Dillon show's apparently worth $1 billion. Hello, Miriam. Where's my money? $300 million, $250 million for Barry Weiss's blog, in which she interviewed megastar Ross Douthat from the New York Times about why conspiracies have taken the hold of the American mind. And Ross goes, well, the thing thing about conspiracies is there's an element of truth. Not in this one. There's not an element of truth. It's all truth. It's all the elements of all of the truth. It's not a kernel of truth. It's lots of kernels in a bag of popcorn. But there's this is what, and every article now is like, why have conspiracies, the minds of people are being warped, they're melting because of the conspiracy. So, again, and everyone talks about, like, everyone's like, oh, the grift is to go against Israel. It's like, clearly not. The grift is $250,000 for the blog, for your blog.
Yeah.
By the way,
that's
God
the
bless. Nice woman, sweet, charming woman. Her and her wife, lovely people, no issue with them directly at all. They don't like me anymore, which is fine because, again, you're on the team or you're not on the team. You criticize one thing, I mean, you're off the team.
He nails it, okay? Are we supposed to actually believe that the free markets are not an illusion when we learn that Barry Weiss's failing company is potentially going to be purchased by Oracle, or by Larry Ellison, rather, maybe in his own personal capacity? Why? Why would he be looking at Barry Weiss at all in the free press? We can see with our own eyes. We're arriving at that point where they're telling us not to believe our own eyes, right? Not to believe our eyes. Barry Weiss is really just as talented, and she's just as brilliant.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And I mean, he hit it on the nail though, because he's like 7,500 views, and I'm like, well, yeah, if that's the case, then we got people like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Theo Vaughn, Tucker Carlson. We could keep going. The Black Conservative. Their channels have to be worth at least close to $1 billion, if not half, right? Because they're seeing way more than 7,500 views. Those are peanuts for people like the ones that I just mentioned. So yeah, that's again like us being lied to right before our eyes and being forced to believe what we're being told. As far as the Brigitte lawsuit, we're keeping track of that. I said it when Candace first announced it that I wanted to stay up to date with that. Candace Owens does excellent journalism work, so I know that this is just going to be a very interesting thing to watch. I wonder if they're going to make it to Discovery. I have a feeling that they're not. That's something that Candace has said she explicitly wants, that for them to make it to Discovery, because she's got a lot of questions. And I believe she does, but I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about her series and some of the stuff she said in this last thing we watched, a little over 30 minutes. You guys head over to her channel and watch the rest of it because it was close to actually an hour. But I want you to give Candace her due views. It's just like, I hope Emmanuel and Brigitte wake up. Because if there's any truth to any of this, of what Candace is saying, and the evidence is compelling, it's overwhelming, then there's no way they're going to Discovery. They're not going to embarrass themselves like that. So I'm wondering what is going to happen. Okay, guys, so with that being said, let's switch gears. We're going to go over to Stephen A. Smith. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith. He covered Charlemagne the God attacked by President Trump. He responds, and so do I. So let's take a look at what Stephen and Charlemagne talked about.
Welcome to the special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every chance I get over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I love my audience. I love the support that you continue to give me. I love it when you show that you miss me, and I love being here for you. So I have to come back off vacation and get right into it because I heard that the president clapped at Charlemagne the God, buddy of mine, co-host of The Breakfast Club, popular show, The Breakfast Club, over the weekend because of things that Charlemagne the God said when appearing on Trump's daughter-in-law's show, Lara Trump. My View is the title of the show. Actually, they've asked me to be a guest on the show. I am going to honor that request, Lara Trump. I know I've been running around with so much to do, so busy, but I'm definitely going to honor that request to show up on that show. But that's neither here nor there at this particular moment in time. President Trump responded to Charlemagne the God, calling him, quote, a sleazebag, after the radio host suggested that traditional Republicans will use rivaled interest in the Jeffrey Epstein files to take over the GOP again. For those of you who don't know much about Charlemagne the God, his real name is Leonard McKelvey. He's co-host of the popular radio show, The Breakfast Club, which draws more than 4 million weekly listeners. Obviously, he was on the show, and he said to Lara Trump, I think that traditional conservatives are going to take the Republican Party back. He said to the president's daughter-in-law on her Fox News show, My View with Lara Trump. He said, I think this Epstein thing is going to be a way for traditional conservatives to take their party back. I really do. He said, I think they know this is the issue that has gotten the base riled up, referencing the disgraced financier who died by suicide in August of 2019. The MAGA base isn't letting this issue go. For the first time, they know they can probably take the party back and not piss off the MAGA base. End quote. That was what Charlemagne had to say. After the interview, in a Truth Social post, Trump praised his daughter-in-law, calling her amazing and talented, and called the show a big ratings success. And then he got to Charlemagne the God, and an entirely different tone took place. Let me read this quote for you that you can see right here up on the full screen. The very wonderful and talented Lara Trump, whose show is a big rating success, put racist sleazebag Charlemagne the God, parentheses, why is he allowed to use the word God when describing himself, question mark. Can anyone imagine the uproar there would be if I used that nickname, parentheses, question mark. He's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I have done, like just ending 5 wars, including a 31-year bloodbath between Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, where 7 million people have died, and there was no end in sight. He didn't know that, or India and Pakistan, or wiping out Iran's nuclear capabilities, or closing a horrendous open border, or creating the greatest economy where prices and inflation have come way down, and where stupid and corrupt Joe Biden set the record for doing the worst job as president ever. But this dope, Charlemagne, would vote for Sleepy Joe or Kamala. Remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. MAGA. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Courtesy of President Donald Trump via his Truth Social quote. Bit sensitive there, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Why so sensitive? For what? And if you're going to have a problem with what Charlemagne said, shouldn't it be a problem with your base? It's not Charlemagne that's out there going off over the Jeffrey Epstein files. That would be Steve Bannon, that would be Tucker Carlson, that would be Candace Owens, and various others, including some members of the GOP, I believe, including Lindsey Graham. And the guy Tillis, Senator Tillis, if I remember correctly, along with various others. You had Republicans out there on Capitol Hill, votes that you need in order to, you needed them in order to get the big, beautiful bill passed. You'll need them for future legislation you're willing to push forward on the American people. The GOP is the one. Some members of the GOP are the ones speaking against you. And I don't think it's far-fetched what Charlemagne the God was saying at all. I don't think it will work. I disagree with him that it will work. But I think he's right on the money about what their intentions are. You yourself notice, Mr. President, they only cater to you because they have no choice. They didn't want you in office in 2020. They were ready to turn against you then. They wanted to reclaim power. We know how you feel about Mitch McConnell. While he's on his way out of office, why you feel that way? Because you thought he wasn't the biggest supporter of you? Now back in 2016, remember little Marco, little hands? Marco Rubio, that's how you disrespected him. Remember how you talked about Ted Cruz's wife? Remember how insulting and denigrating you were to other Republican candidates? Now it's politics, so bygones are bygones are bygones. So I'm not bringing that up to engage in revisionist history. I'm simply saying anything goes in politics. And the flip side to it is that, hey, because it's you, and you have owned the base since 2015, they have no choice but to acquiesce to your wishes and your demands because they don't want to leave office. But the second you turn your back, the second you show a shred, a sliver of vulnerability, you know, Mr. President, they will backstab you. They will do everything they can to undermine your power.
This is true.
So rather than going to Charlemagne the God, why don't you go at them? Why couldn't you say something like, I wish they'd try. It would be a huge mistake. How do you think Grassley's feeling about you right now? When you called him out the other day, and he talked about being personally insulted with the personal attacks that you made in this election as a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them don't like you.
Yeah, that's the GOP.
Some of them cater to you because it's politically expedient to do so. You know that. So why go at Charlemagne the God? Hit a nerve? Tell the truth? I think he's telling the truth about what the intent is. I just don't think it'll work. I don't think you, Mr. President Donald Trump, has anything to worry about when it comes to the GOP. They will bow to your whim in a heartbeat. Because you'll call them out, you'll embarrass them, and you'll get them out of office. And they know it, and they scared to death of you.
Yeah, they know.
Just like you like it. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think Charlemagne the God is wrong in that part. But I do think he's right about what their intent would be and what their wishes are, which means I think the attack on him was completely unnecessary and uncalled for. He's not a low IQ, highly successful radio host, successful podcast, successful Black Effect Network. He has the pulse of the people. And a lot of people may disagree with him, but they can't avoid what he's saying because he's unapologetic about where he stands and how he feels. Some would say, you're that way, sir. So, maybe you need to rethink what you said. Not that you will, because we know you double down instead of retract. We know this.
Yeah, for the most part.
But, let's go to your daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Did you see how amazing you said she was? Did you see how friendly she was with Charlemagne?
Yeah.
Did you see how she articulated that she had been a guest on his show?
Yep.
Did you see the very respectful conversation, the back and forth that they had with one another?
Yep.
Did you see how she invited him back?
Yeah. And everything that Steven's saying there is right, because I actually did get a chance to watch that interview that Charlemagne did with Laura, because I saw it pop up, so I clicked on it. And it was a shorter clip that I watched, but I believe it was towards the end, because everything that Steven is saying she did do. She did invite him back to the show. She did say, Charlemagne, I'm thankful that you're willing to like sit down and have this type of conversation. Like, they have a pretty good rapport with each other. And that's what people have to realize. Just because President Trump puts that post out on Truth Social about Charlemagne being racist and a sleazebag and low IQ, it doesn't mean that Laura Trump feels that way. She can't control what her father-in-law puts on the social media. So anybody that has a father-in-law that does what he wants, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Or they have a mother-in-law who does what she wants, they know what I'm talking about. Like, she's not going to be able to control what President Trump tells his people or what he puts on his social media. But they did have a really good interaction with each other, and they do have a good rapport. She didn't say nothing rude to him. She basically alluded to the fact that she likes him. She enjoys their conversations. She's been on the Breakfast Club. Charlemagne's been there, and it was a good exchange. So everything that Stephen A is saying in that regard, he's spot on.
What you tripping for? If he said something that was outlandish and egregious, don't you think your daughter-in-law, who's a pretty astute woman, by the way,
Yeah, she
I
would
like
have
her
said
show.
something.
I've been impressed by what I've seen her do. And I'm going to go on the show soon. I really will, because I've been asked to. But she's been very impressive. She didn't have a problem with what he said, because she knew he was talking about them, not you. A little bit sensitive there, Mr. President. I wonder why. Epstein file, that's what it got you that fidgety? If so, why? I'm just asking.
Full friend, right? Stephen A.
It was rhetorical,
So I'm just asking.
and I'll leave it at that. Because I got the man on right now himself, the guy you were talking about, the guy you called the sleazebag, with a low IQ. Anybody that knows him wouldn't accuse him of some low IQ. Yeah, some people might call him that sleazebag stuff. Charlemagne don't play, so he gonna say what he gonna say, and some people might feel that way about him. But ain't nobody gonna question the brother's IQ now. That ain't gonna happen. Well, you heard what I had to say about it, but who better to talk to than my next guest, the man that was verbally attacked by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, the one and only Charlemagne the God, co-host of the popular show, The Breakfast Club, listen, it doesn't get much bigger than them. Over 1 billion views thus far this year alone. Just continuing to do their thing. Author of a couple of books. We'll get into all of that as well. Charlemagne God is right here with yours truly. What's going on, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
Stephen A. Smith, what's happening, my brother? How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Just struggling with a little laryngitis, but I'm getting better, so I'll be good. Let's get right to it, man. I just want to let you know that in case my voice sounds a little bit raspy as usual. You heard what the president had to say about you. I'm going to read this right here. When you were on Lara Trump's show, all right, My View, just a few days ago, and you alluded to the conservatives within the GOP having an opportunity to take advantage of this whole Trump association with Jeffrey Epstein, somebody he knew for about 15 years or so. Obviously, the president took umbrage to that, and one of the things he said was about you. First of all, he called you a sleazebag and discounted your intelligence. And secondly, he says he's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I have done. Just ending 5 wars, including a 31-year bloodbath between Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, where 7 million people have died, and there was no end in sight. That's just some of the things that he said. Your response to the President of the United States, my man?
I mean, that's his opinion. You know, I'm a person that still believes in the First Amendment. So, you know, we all have, freedom of speech. We all have the right to reserve our opinions about people, to express our opinions about people. And I'm never going to be a person that steps on somebody's First Amendment rights. Unlike the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who seems, to be implementing this authoritarian strategy and is using that to silence any voices who speak out against anything that he does. When I was on Lara Trump's show, and I don't know if you saw the conversation, Stephen A., I thought I was pretty fair, like I usually am.
I really did. I thought you were very fair. I thought you were very even-handed. You even reminded me of the importance of maybe I should stop calling myself an independent because we live in a binary two-party system where, you say, I saw what you were saying, and obviously it made all the sense in the world, so I want to give you credit for that. But what is it that you think that riled him up most? Because he knows what he's done. He sued ABC, he sued CBS, obviously NBC, Stephen Colbert. He's taking credit for getting him, getting his.
That in that interview, because it wasn't horrible, I think that is a good question for Stephen A. to ask. I'm trying to think back to it, and the only thing I can think of, especially regarding the quote that he read, I think that probably President Trump had the biggest problem with Charlemagne saying that he believes the traditionalists are going to try to take over the GOP. That's what I think it probably was. It's simply because if we think about that, it's like, that's almost like, it, like without saying it, President Trump could take that like Charlemagne in a way of saying that he supported what happened on January 6th. And some people are going to say he did because he pardoned all of the January 6ers. But yeah, if there's just certain things that the traditionalists stand for that President Trump doesn't. I just don't think that he would like, Charlemagne putting him parallel with them. So, I mean, I feel like that was a trigger for him, but let's see what Charlemagne thinks.
Show canceled this coming May. Everywhere you turn, there's something with him and the media. So that's speaking to what you're alluding to in regards to First Amendment rights. But is it that you think riled him up? Or was it the fact that you said that conservatives are positioning themselves to sort of dilute his voice a little bit to some degree and gain some extra power?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things. Me, pointing to the fact that he's the one who said on the very first day, I'm gonna bring inflation down. On the very first day, I'm gonna bring, grocery prices down. And we know prices aren't down and inflation is dead. We just saw the job numbers come out this past, was last Friday it was, and unemployment is up. Then he fired the labor statistic chief, who put those numbers out. And also, let's forget the stats for a second, right? I was in Maryland earlier this year for my daughter's cheerleading competition, right? And people were coming up to me, talking to me, telling me how they're losing their jobs, because of what Doge was doing. And like, I'm an ambassador also for the food bank in New York City. I see firsthand how federal funding, being cut for programs like that impact people. So you can't just, throw a bunch of stats out there and tell people things are all good, when they aren't. And that's actually kind of crazy coming from President Trump, because that's the same mentality that hurt Democrats when they was talking about Bidenomics and telling people stock prices are up and GDP is up, but people in the streets are still hurting. You can't keep peeing on people's head and telling them that it's raining. And I mean, that's what's happening right now, from the economy to Epstein.
Well, listen, the economy, like you pointed out, they were projecting 113,000 jobs in July, and it turned out to be only about 73 to 75,000. So they came up short, and he fires the commissioner for labor statistics. So you were talking about that. Obviously, we hear about the tariff wars, and we're hearing that there's $10 trillion in pledges. You and I are from the same kind of hood, my brother. I guess for me, what resonates with you is that's a pledge, that's a guarantee that can be reneged upon at any particular moment in time. I understand that if it comes to fruition, it will definitely stir the economy in a positive direction. But until it definitively happens, I'm not caught up in promises of manufacturing jobs and semiconductor jobs, and I'm not caught up in all of that. I got to see it actually happen. I'll give him credit for the border because I think it needed to be closed because Biden had it wide open. I don't like the way he's going about it, but I only say that to say, if there's a person, in spite of all the criticism that you may throw in his direction, that would speak favorably about something that he's done, if you believe there is something favorable that he has done, somebody that would say it is you. So as we sit here today, having said what he said about you, is there anything positive that you can point to about the Trump administration in your eyes at this particular moment in time?
I mean, we talked about it on our show. Laura brought up, the border. I am a stern believer in border security. I just don't like the way that he's going about doing it, because he told us that he was keeping the murderers and the rapists, and the illegal immigrants out of our country. Nobody in America should have a problem with that. But when you see, people who are actually, going through the process of trying to be in this country legally, being detained, and being deported and sent back to countries that they've never even been to, like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, going to the Home Depot to snatch up people who are, just out there looking to, make a honest day's living. That doesn't make any sense. And I don't think there's anything wrong with calling that out. And, I think to go back to the other question you asked me too, the theory I had, about this political coup that could be going on in the Republican Party. You're familiar, Stephen A., with the rumors that J.D. Vance went to meet with Rupert Murdoch in Montana. That was the same week Trump's letter to Epstein was published by Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal. And then Trump sued Rupert Murdoch. And then, there was another week where Mike Johnson shut the House down to avoid a vote on releasing the Epstein files.
Early release for vacation.
The Wall Street Journal came out that week and said, Trump knew he was in the Epstein files since May. And I just look at how the MAGA base has responded to the Epstein issue. It just feels like traditional conservatives who lost the party to Trump could use this opportunity to get it back, because the MAGA base wouldn't be upset at all if they decided to impeach Trump and vote to remove him because he's in the Epstein files. And I think being that I said that, along with the economy, and I said it on Laura Trump's show, his daughter-in-law, on Fox News, I think that's what caused that response yesterday.
So are you anticipating that he's going to come after you the way that he's coming after everybody else in the media? Not everybody else, but a lot of people in the media. Are you expecting something of that magnitude?
And he already did. I mean, it's funny, right? Because like today, my phone, of course, is blowing up, and it's everybody from, elected officials, just to the homies, right? Are other people in the media space, and they all have like the same sentiment. And the sentiment is, hey man, be careful, be safe, make sure your security's on point. Those MAGA folks are crazy. And they just made me think to myself, damn, we're at that point in our society where you can't even criticize, your president without people thinking that, your safety is in danger. If that's not authoritarian strategy, I don't know what is. So, just the fact that people were calling my phone saying that today, it says a lot about where we are, as a society. So I don't know what's going to happen.
It says a lot about where we are as a society. We are disintegrating before our very eyes as far as I'm concerned. But what does it say to you about you? Do you feel you need to watch your back? Are you concerned?
I've always got my head on a swivel, Stephen A. I didn't got punched in the street a couple of times throughout my career, so I always got my head on a swivel. So if you ask me, do I feel like I need to watch my back? I'm not going to watch my back any more than I currently already, do.
Let me transition to the MAGA base, because that's where you and I part ways. I think we disagree here. I don't think the Republican Party, the GOP, is capable of dissipating Trump's voice in any way. I don't think they're capable of doing it, and I'll tell you why. partially because of the Democrats. Because again, let's look at Mamdani in New York City. Democratic nominee just beat Cuomo in the primaries. It's favored to beat Cuomo and Eric Adams, who are both running as independents in the New York City mayoral race. You see the Gavin Newsom, and even though he's leaving office, we know what his history was in terms of progressive verbiage and what have you, even though he's trying to lean towards the center because he's plotting a 2028 run. I was born at night, not last night. I see exactly what the hell he's doing. We got a cat in Minnesota that's considered to be progressive, and apparently he's making some noise as well. I think that when you have that going on the left, Trump doesn't have to worry about anybody on the right because they'll never go in a different direction. To that you say what?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up because I'm on record as saying that, people may rebel against MAGA, right? And we pretty much kind of knew Donald Trump would fumble the ball in some way, shape, or form, but we know that Democrats don't have the proper team on the field to recover the fumble.
Nope.
So just because they will rebel against MAGA doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go, towards Democrats, and that's why I feel like traditional conservatives have the opportunity to take their party back and present that traditional conservative way of doing things to America, and it'll be a large majority of people who feel like, that's more stable than what's going on with MAGA, that's more stable than what's currently going on with the Democratic Party. I think I'm gonna stay right here, because they're gonna be the ones that look like, they're sort of in the center. I feel like even, the progressive left, looks like they're in the center right now. Because when you talk about somebody like Mamdani, the reason he's resonating is because he's using one word, Stephen A., affordability. He's simply going out here and saying, New York is too expensive to live in. And guess what? People all over the country feel like that about wherever they are if you're not in a certain tax bracket. They feel like that the country is just, too expensive. Affordability. Anybody who talks that language is going to resonate with people. That's why Trump resonated last election. He literally said, I won the election off one word, groceries. The groceries were too damn high. That's it.
Listen, affordability, but your other word, safety. Those are the two primary things. Because you can afford stuff, but if you don't feel safe in the streets, you ain't gonna go out and spend. And if you ain't going out and spending, you ain't fueling the economy, and you're gonna be counterproductive to everything that they're trying to establish. And in the case of Mamdani, I think the one thing that's working for him is that he comes from a well-off family, if my research is correct. And so as a result of that, when you got a president that's supposedly a billionaire, we know he's a billionaire now, but was supposedly a billionaire coming into office, okay? And America didn't mind that. They're certainly not going to hold it against somebody that lived had an affluent life available to him before capturing office. So I get you on that part. But I also agree with you about this. I'm a Wes Moore fan. I'm a Josh Shapiro fan. But I'm also not a thief. I'm not going to steal an idea from Charlemagne the God. I loved what you said on Lara Trump's show when you brought up Jon Stewart from Comedy Central. Listen, he's a viable candidate. He knows the issues. He's smart as hell. He's a viable candidate for the job. But you're the perfect person to ask this question to. One of the things that people think jeopardizes stuff for Mamdani is that they don't believe he has spoken out strongly enough against anti-Semitism. On the flip side, whether it's a Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, whether it's a Jon Stewart, obviously we know their association, the Jewish individuals. Considering what's going on with Israel and Gaza, etc., how receptive or attractive do you think either of them would be as a presidential candidate for 2028?
I don't think anybody will hold Jon Stewart's identity against him simply because Jon Stewart is a person who speaks truth to power regardless. Jon Stewart can speak to, how atrocious October 7th was. He can speak to, of course he doesn't want anti-Semitism to happen. He's a Jewish man, but he can also speak to, the inhumane things that are happening to those innocent people in Gaza. It's one thing to go into Gaza and weed out Hamas. It's another, to kill a bunch of innocent, men, women, and children. And I think Jon Stewart has done a fantastic job, speaking out against that. And to that point about Jon Stewart, he has the cultural cachet of 30 plus years of being on Daily Show, being on TV, and he's actually gotten legislation passed before. Yep. Nobody can forget what Jon Stewart did, for the firefighters,
in
New York City on 9/11. Like, I don't think there's a better messenger, period, than Jon Stewart. I don't even look at it as a party thing. I'm just looking at it as a person who actually cares. And I think Jon Stewart is one of those people. Governor Shapiro, I personally like Governor Shapiro. I think that it'll be more
That's
of
cool.
a backlash towards him just because he's a politician. I don't think it's about him being Jewish as much as it is him
That's
being
why I asked.
a politician, an elected official. I think for some reason, people look at elected officials, in regards to that issue, worse than they would somebody like a Jon Stewart.
Well, that's the Jewish element. What about this when it comes to Wes Moore as an African American, who obviously served our country with distinction and what have you before he became the governor of Maryland? Some people believe that the reason why Trump is in office, was ever in office rather to begin with, was because it was white backlash against Obama and his time in the White House. Well, some people will look at Wes Moore and say, you know what, are we gonna want that twice? Because they'll think along those lines. I won't, you won't,
Yeah.
he'd have my vote. But I wonder, do you feel that that would be a factor if indeed he decided to change course and say, I'm not gonna just focus on Maryland, I think I should be the president of the United States of America?
Yeah, listen, all of those things factor, Stephen. And we can't allow.
If that's the case, then I would say yeah, just like Charlemagne did, all of that would factor in. They're gonna feel that way whether it's Westmoreland running, whether it's Byron Donalds running. And those are two different caliber of people running, but nonetheless, I think they are gonna feel that way because just because of President Obama, he just didn't leave the best taste in certain people's mouth.
Lie to ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves about Shapiro. We can't lie to ourselves about Westmore. This is still America at the end of the day. So there are going to be some people who hold, Westmore being black against him. It is going to be some people who hold, Josh Shapiro being Jewish against him. But I think all of us just need to focus on ideas. Like, let's not focus on the individual. Let's not focus on their identity. Let's put their ideas on the table and see if their ideas can help take our country, in a positive direction, in the future.
My issue with you when you say that, Charlemagne, is that the ideas, you're absolutely right, you're not wrong, but we know when it comes election time, campaign time, they pretend to have ideas, but they really resort to denigrating the other side. We know what they do. Ultimately, it's about, oh my God, what's going to happen to you if you vote for that person? What's going to happen for you if you vote for that person? That's what it is. And by the way, I made news, I think you may have seen it, but did it, in case you didn't, I made news when I spoke back at Michelle Obama. She was just talking about sports TV compared to reality TV. I took no offense to that whatsoever. Yeah, it was totally cool. It's no big deal to me. But I took the opportunity to remind her that I was still a bit salty when she was campaigning on behalf of Kamala Harris and was saying a vote for him was a vote against us as women. And I'm saying, well, damn, people vote for the economy, people vote about immigration, people vote about safety in the streets, affordability, like you pointed out to. It's entirely possible that there's a plethora of issues, at least for men, that come before pro-choice or pro-life. That's all I was trying to say. So to act as if to vote against that would have been an indictment against women, I didn't like that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's a lot of nuanced reasons as to why people cast their votes. And, the only thing I would say to what you just said is once that is presented to us, right? When somebody says, well, okay, I know the reasons you may want to vote for this person, but look at what he's going to do with this and how this is going to impact a large swath of a certain demographic. Then we got to make decisions as fathers, as husbands, as brothers. We got to make decisions. That's right. So we got to make decisions based on that. But yeah, I just think it's all very nuanced, man. It's a very interesting conversation. What was I forgot the question.
No, you answered it. You answered it already because I was talking about just what I said in terms of that was my position, and you talked about how you agree with the
Governor Shapiro. I personally like Governor Shapiro. I think that it'll be more of a backlash towards him just because he's a politician. I don't think it's about him being Jewish as much as it is him being a politician, an elected official. I think for some reason, people look at elected officials, in regards to that issue, worse than they would somebody like a Jon Stewart.
Well, that's the Jewish element. What about this when it comes to Wes Moore as an African American, who obviously served our country with distinction and what have you before he became the governor of Maryland? Some people believe that the reason why Trump is in office, was ever in office rather to begin with, was because it was white backlash against Obama and his time in the White House.
That's
well,
crazy work.
some people will look at Wes Moore and say, you know what, are we gonna want that twice? because they'll think along those lines. I won't, you won't, he'd have my vote, but I wonder, do you feel that that would be a factor if indeed he decided to change course and say, I'm not going to just focus on Maryland. I think I should be the president of the United States of America.
Yeah, listen, all of those things factor, Stephen A. We can't lie to ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves about Shapiro. We can't lie to ourselves about Westmore. This is still America at the end of the day. So there are going to be some people who hold, Westmore being black against him. It is going to be some people who hold, Josh Shapiro being Jewish against him. But I think all of us just need to focus on ideas. Like, let's not focus on the individual. Let's not focus on their identity. Let's put their ideas on the table and see if their ideas can help take our country, in a positive direction, in the future.
My issue with you when you say that, Charlemagne, is that the ideas, you're absolutely right, you're not wrong, but we know when it comes election time, campaign time, they pretend to have ideas, but they really resort to denigrating the other side. We know what they do. Ultimately, it's about, oh my God, what's going to happen to you if you vote for that person? What's going to happen to you if you vote for that person? That's what it is. And by the way, I made news. I think you may have seen it, but did it, if in case you didn't, I made news when I spoke back at Michelle Obama. She was just talking about sports TV compared to reality TV. I took no offense to that whatsoever. Yeah, it was totally cool. It's no big deal to me. But I took the opportunity to remind her that I was still a bit salty when she was campaigning on behalf of Kamala Harris and was saying a vote for him was a vote against us as women. And I'm saying, well, damn, people vote for the economy. People vote about immigration. People vote about safety in the streets, affordability, like you pointed out to. It's entirely possible that there's a plethora of issues, at least for men, that come before pro-choice or pro-life. That's all I was trying to say. So to act as if to vote against that would have been an indictment against women, I didn't like that.
Yeah, that's a little
I
strong.
think you're absolutely right. I think that there's a lot of nuanced reasons as to why people cast their votes. And, the only thing I would say to what you just said is once that is presented to us, right? When somebody says, well,
that's like
okay,
hyper-feminist.
You may want to vote for this person, but look at what he's going to do with this and how this is going to impact a large swath of a certain demographic. Then we got to make decisions as fathers, as husbands, as brothers. We got to make decisions. That's right. So we got to make decisions based on that. But yeah, I just think it's all very nuanced, man. It's a very interesting conversation.
I just wanted to see why he said that's why I voted for Kamala. I wanted to hear the context again. That's why I went back.
I forgot the question.
No, you answered it. You answered it already because I was talking about just what I said in terms of that was my position, and you talked about how you agree with the nuance, but in the same breath, once it's presented to you, you can understand a point. What were your thoughts about Kamala Harris not removing herself from a potential another presidential run, but definitely saying she's not running for the gubernatorial seat in California? I personally believe there's no way in hell she's going to win the presidency in 2028. I don't think that she's going to be the candidate. I think her time, she had a chance at that. It didn't get done, and that's where I'm at with it. What about you?
Kamala's a friend, man.
Yeah.
I've been supporting Kamala for a long time. But I can't sit here and say I disagree with you. I think that she should do whatever it is that she wants to do. But when I heard her say that, the system is broken, and she wants to take a step back from the system. Her whole career has been the system. I just don't see.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, her whole career has been the system. I just don't see how now, she's going to take a step back away from the system. But I do think that, her mentality of wanting to go out there and saying, I want to be more of a public servant and actually, be on the ground, meeting people, shaking their hands, looking them in the eyes, talking to them. I think that will have more of an impact than people think. I saw people saying that, she wouldn't make a good surrogate because, she's unpopular, and I'm putting unpopular in air quotes. Yeah, she got the second most votes of any Democratic nominee in a presidential election ever. Now, I don't know, what that personally means, especially when the first one was Joe Biden. But if you got that many people who went out there and voted for you, then she clearly has some type of cachet that she probably could use to help other individuals win elections.
Right.
It's just not her time. And that, it could never be her time. Someone could literally hear me say that and they could be like, no, Q, it could never be her time. That might be so, but what I'm saying right now is that if she was going to be the Democratic presidential candidate, I don't think 2028 would be the time. I would say further out, but then if I think about further out, I would say, okay, I can see why some people may say her time has passed. So we could chalk it up to really bad timing. We could chalk it up to, she might say, just 107 days of being able to campaign. But either way, it's not like she didn't get any votes at all. So I do understand that. But I want you guys to go over to Stephen A. Smith's channel and watch the rest of that. I'm not going to play it all. We stopped at about the 29 and 50-minute mile marker, so you guys can continue that on Stephen A. Smith's channel. Shout out to Charlemagne the God and Stephen A. Smith. All right, guys, so moving on to the next topic. We're going to switch gears and go to James Talarico, Democrat out of Texas, who is making waves. And I call him pastor politician because that is what he does. I do enjoy this combination. I watch James, I listen to him. I have some things that I don't totally agree with him on, but I think that's healthy because who are you going to agree with everybody? Who are you going to agree with everything? Who are you going to agree with about everything on, right? So I think it's normal for me to be like that, but I'm really conflicted just by him being a Christian and just some of the things that he stands for. Or even some of the things I would say he has room for. I don't want that to sound like I don't have grace, but I think I'll go in more detail with that tomorrow, since tomorrow I want to be, or later on today, Friday, I want to bring you guys 2 live streams. So right now we're just going to watch Mr. Talarico's sermon that he delivered. When did he put this up? Because this is on James's channel. He put this up. Okay, so I found this sermon. He has one more recent, but because I'm going to watch a couple of them, because I like to call him pastor politician, I just want to see, let's see his theology on the word and just listen, in a sense of listening, not with prejudice, not with judgment, but just as someone who could be a future candidate, possibly in the Senate or maybe even the president one day. Joe Rogan did say he should run for president. So let's take a listen.
Our pastor, Dr. Jim Rigby, is on his writing leave, but I don't know how much writing is really getting done. I sent him a text asking for some inspiration for this sermon, and he sent me this. It's the top reason beer is better than religion.
Let me do this because I see it's skipping a little bit.
Our pastor.
Did he just say the top reasons why beer is better than religion? Oh, Lord. Okay.
Our pastor, Dr. Jim Rigby, is on his writing leave, but I don't know how much writing is really getting done. I sent him a text asking for some inspiration for this
That might actually just be his video doing that.
sermon, and he sent me this. It's the top reasons beer is better than religion.
Oh, Lord.
Number 1, when you have beer, you don't knock on people's doors trying to give it away. Number 2, there are laws against forcing beer on minors who can't think for themselves. Number 3, nobody's ever been burned at the stake because of their favorite brand of beer. Number 4, you don't have to wait more than 2,000 years for a second beer. And last, if you've devoted your life to beer, there are groups to help you. My granddad was a Baptist preacher. I've been a member of this church since I was 2 years old. And now I'm in seminary studying to become a minister myself. My faith means more to me than anything. But if I'm being very honest, sometimes I hesitate before telling someone I'm a Christian. There is a cancer on our religion. until we confess the sin that is Christian nationalism and exorcise it from our churches, our religion can do a lot more damage than a six-pack of Lone Star. There is nothing Christian about Christian nationalism. It is the worship of power, social power, economic power, political power in the name of Christ. And it is a betrayal of Jesus of Nazareth. He told us we would know them by their fruits. Jesus includes, Christian nationalism excludes. Jesus liberates, Christian nationalism controls. Jesus saves, Christian nationalism kills. Jesus started a universal movement based on mutual love. Christian nationalism is a sectarian movement based on mutual hate. Jesus came to transform the world. Christian nationalism is here to maintain the status quo. They have co-opted the Son of God. They've turned this humble rabbi into a gun-toting, gay-bashing, science-denying, money-loving, fear-mongering fascist. And it is incumbent upon all Christians to confront it and denounce it.
Amen.
Christian nationalism is on the rise. 2 years ago, Christian nationalists stormed the U.S. Capitol, killing police officers while carrying crosses and signs reading, "Jesus saves." Last year, Christian nationalists on the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, allowing states like ours to outlaw abortion, even in cases of rape and incest. And as we speak, 2 Christian nationalist billionaires are trying to replace public schools in Texas with private Christian schooling. We are closer than we think to a Christian theocracy. How did this happen? The first followers of Jesus didn't call themselves Christians. They called themselves the Way. Their crucified teacher taught them a different way of being human, and they intended to follow it. The early church was a revolutionary community built on radical love, of peculiar people who shared all their possessions and refused to participate in the economy, the military, or the culture. The book of Acts tells us that the first Christians were persecuted for turning the world upside down. But 300 years after Jesus was executed by the Roman Empire, Emperor Constantine made Christianity the official state religion of that very same empire. Constantine was the first Christian nationalist. And ever since, the powers that be have been taming Christianity, domesticating it, diluting it into something more palatable. Pro-war, pro-wealth, pro-white supremacy. That original countercultural movement became a tranquilized, privatized, weaponized religion, the official sponsor of Western civilization. A religion of sharing became a religion of greed. A religion of peace became a religion of violence. A religion of forgiveness became a religion of judgment. A religion of ego transformation became a religion of ego affirmation. Today, Christian nationalists obsess over people's private parts while the planet burns. 8 men own as much wealth as 3.6 billion people, and Christian nationalists are boycotting Barbie. The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true. Look around us. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would forgive student debt. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would guarantee health care to every single person. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would love all of our LGBTQ neighbors. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would make sure every child in this state and in this country was housed, fed, clothed, educated, and insured. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would never make it a Christian nation, because we know the table of fellowship is open to everybody, including our Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and atheist neighbors. Jesus could have started a Christian theocracy, but love would never do that. The closest thing we have to the kingdom of heaven is a multiracial, multicultural democracy where power is truly shared among all people. Something that's yet to exist in human history. Christian nationalism is not only a threat to the American experiment in democracy, it's also a threat to the gospel of Jesus Christ. When someone asked Jesus to name his most important commandment, he cheats and gives two. Two that he says are related. The first is to love God. The second, he said, is like it. Love thy neighbor as thyself. It's like it because when I recognize the divine image in myself, I can't help but recognize it in my neighbor. Whether they're Christian or not, whether they're religious or not. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus specifically defines neighbor as someone different from us, racially, economically, politically, religiously. God loves diversity. God loves variety. Just look around this big, beautiful planet of ours. Do we really think God would make all these beautiful people with all their beautiful traditions for no reason at all? There are so many pathways to the sacred. The Islamic mystic Rumi said, every religion has love, but love has no religion. God is so much bigger than our human categories. God is not a Presbyterian. God is not a Christian. God is not a noun at all. God is a verb. God is not a being. God is being itself. God is love. And that's why Jesus is against anything that gets in the way of that love between neighbors, including religion. That's why he's always breaking religious rules. That's why he's always getting in trouble with the religious authorities. That's why he says sinners will see the kingdom of heaven before religious people do. Sorry to everyone here. I know you came all this way. Religious supremacy is antithetical to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus didn't come to establish a Christian nation. He came to reveal ultimate reality, which he called the kingdom of God. But it's not like any kingdom we've ever known. Instead of a throne, Jesus sits at a table. Instead of a war horse, Jesus rides a donkey. Instead of a sword, Jesus picks up a cross. The kingdom of God inverts the power dynamics of all the kingdoms in the world. True strength is vulnerability. True status is equality. True wealth is sharing. And we as Christians are called to realize that kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, not by force, but by faith. Jesus asked us to have the faith of a mustard seed, trusting that by living and dying for love, we give birth to a better world. That's not easy to do. In a world full of fear, Jesus knew we would put our trust in something other than God, something other than love. As a Jewish rabbi, he called those things idols. Money, status, and the most dangerous idol of all, power. When Jesus was tempted by the devil in the wilderness, one of the things the devil offered was power. All the kingdoms of the world, and Jesus rejected it. When his disciples asked, who will be the most powerful in the kingdom of God? Jesus said, you know the lords of the earth push their people around. But among you, it'll be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be a servant. And when they still didn't get it, and they asked, who will be the greatest in the kingdom of God? Jesus said, little children, the least powerful, but most trusting members of any human community. That's the kingdom of God. I think Chance the Rapper said it best. Don't believe in kings, believe in the kingdom. Jesus knew, in the words of Dorothy Stoma, there is only one legitimation of power, and that is to share it with others. Power that is not shared, power that is not transformed into love, is pure domination and oppression.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop this at 12:27. That would be Mr. James Talarico's sermon. Okay, so I have listened to small clips before. I will say there are some things that he says that I feel are a little problematic. You know, I do feel that way. But when talking about it in the scope of Christian nationalism, I see where he's trying to go with things. Yeah, so I'm literally gonna leave that at that because we're gonna react to and watch a couple of more of Mr. Talarico's sermon. This wasn't meant to be a deep reaction. This was more like a news of thought tonight. So that's why I really just kind of played it and I wanted you guys to soak it up. Tomorrow I'm gonna bring a different clip by him. Earlier in the day when we do our first reaction / watch video, and yeah, we'll take a look at a little bit more of Mr. James Talarico's sermons. The reason why I think this is important is because as he is this rising star in the Democratic Party and all eyes are on him, a lot of people might pay attention to the fact that he's a Christian, but it's probably going to stop just there, right? So I'm interested in his theology, you know, I'm interested in, you know, just what he believes about the word and about Jesus and about scripture and things like that, because that also tells something. So yeah, we're gonna keep reacting to Mr. and watching Mr. James Talarico. He is this rising star in the Democratic Party in Texas. Joe Rogan has said he should run for president, and while we're not saying that Joe Rogan is necessarily what he says goes, but we know what kind of audience he has. A lot of young to middle, not young, lower than middle-aged men listen and watch Joe Rogan. So yeah, he has their ear, and they'll probably start to pay attention to Mr. Talarico. I believe his episode on Joe Rogan now is up to like 967 thousand. So it's almost has 1 million views. You know, so it's definitely gonna give Mr. Talarico some more spotlight than what he already has. So yeah, we'll react to some more of that and watch some more of that in a couple hours. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves, love one another, be peaceful. Peace.